Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, where we're relishing right here in the live studios in Hythe, Kent, southeast England, just across from the English Channel. We're relishing hearing the Brhad Bhagavatamrta, which is a real treat for all of us, especially me. We're reading Srimad Bhagavatam Mahima Stotra, which was also composed by Srila Sanatana Goswami. It appears in his Sri Krishna Leela Stava, which he wrote after he wrote the Brhad Bhagavatamrta. It's 5 verses glorifying the Srimad Bhagavatam. We're doing this because the Brhad Bhagavatamrta is based on the Srimad Bhagavatam, or rather, it is the essence of the Srimad Bhagavatam, described by Maharaj Parikshit to his mother Uttara, just after he heard the Srimad Bhagavatam from Shukadeva Goswami, and before the snake bird came and bit him and ended this incarnation. So, Srimad Bhagavatam Mahima Stotra goes like this: Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha, Sarva Vedhaika Satpala, Sarva Sadanta Ratnaja, Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Srimad Bhagavata Prabho, Kali Vandurita Ditya, Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master, Srimad Bhagavatam, you are this sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya, Prema Varshakshadayate, Sarvada Sarvasevyaya, Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin, Madgudo Mad Mahadana, Man Nishtadaga Mad Bhagya, Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu saduta dayan, atini chuchata kada, hanamun chagadachin mam, premna rit kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me, always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, we're in the 2nd chapter of the Brhad Bhagavatamrta, which is called Heaven. Narada Muni, in his search for the devotee they receive the most mercy from Krishna, has visited Indra and was convinced by Indra that actually Brahma is a better devotee than he is. And so now Narada is going to go to Brahmaloka. the transcendental spaceman, can travel anywhere, anytime he wants. Text 30. This is Indra speaking to Narada. But you should know, O best son of Brahma, that your own father is the true recipient of the favor of Lord Hari. He is directly the son of Lord Vishnu, the husband of Lakshmi. Commentary. The four Kumaras, headed by Sanaka, are senior to Narada by age, as are several other sons of Brahma. But Narada is superior by virtue of his pure devotion to Lord Lakshmikanta. But even better than the best son is the father, born not from Mother Lakshmi's womb, but directly from the navel of the Supreme Person. Text 31. In one day of Brahma, 14 Indras like me come and go, along with different sets of Manus and all the demigods. That one day equals 1,000 cycles of earthly ages. So this is actually Indra glorifying Brahma to Narada before Narada decides to go to Brahmaloka. Text 32. According to the scriptures, Brahma's day is of the same duration. According to the scriptures, Brahma's night is of the same duration. 360 of such days and nights makes one of his years, and his life lasts 100 years. Commentary. 14 times in each day of Brahma, different Indras, sages, demigods, Manus, sons of Manu, and special incarnations of the Supreme Lord come and go. Manmantaram Manurdeva Manuputra Sureshwaraha Rishayo Shavatarascha Hare Hare Shad Vidamuchite. In each reign of Manu, 6 manifestations of Lord Hari appear. Indra, the chief demigods, the ruling Manu, the sons of Manu, the great sages, and the partial incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is from Bhagavatam 12:7-15. Purandara Indra has heard about all this, but is too short-lived to have realized it directly. 33. He is the creator of the planets and the rulers. He assigns them. He is the world's chief protector, the dispenser of the fruits of karma, and at the onset of his night, the destroyer of the world. Text 34. The Mahapurusha, the 1,000-headed form of the Lord, is always directly visible on Brahma's planet, personally accepting the countless oblations offered him, and thus always giving delight to his devotees. Commentary. At the beginning of each day of his life, Lord Brahma appoints qualified candidates to serve as Indra, the sages, the Prajapatis, and other demigods. Also, he protects the universe from chaos by establishing Vedic sacrifice and the social laws for individual classes of human beings. Thus, Brahma not only creates the universe, but maintains it as well. Brahma also says that he destroys it. Indra also says that he destroys it, because when Brahma goes to sleep at night, a break in his meditation partially devastates the universe. When Hiranyakashipu worshipped Brahma with the demonic aim of subverting the universal order, he glorified Brahma similarly. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord within this universe. At the end of each day of his life, the universe is fully covered with dense darkness by the influence of time. And then again, during his next day, that self-effulgent Lord, by his own effulgence, manifests, maintains, and destroys the entire cosmic manifestation through the material energy, which is invested with the three modes of material energy. He, Lord Brahma, is the shelter of those modes of nature, Sattvaguna, Rajaguna, and Tamaguna. This is Bhagavatam 7:3, 26 and 27. Living together with Brahma on his planet is the incarnation of the Supreme Lord called Mahapurusha. He is the 1,000-headed first incarnation, Mahavishnu, whose further expansion is Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. Most of these forms are described in Srimad Bhagavatam in the first and second cantos. Adyo Vatadak Purushak Padasya. The first descent of the Supreme into the material world is the Mahapurusha. Bhagavatam 2.6.42. Jagrihe Purusham Rupam Bhagavan Mahad Adibihi Sambhutam Shodasha Kalam Adao Loka Sisrikshaya. In the beginning of the creation, the Lord first expanded himself in the universal form of the Purusha incarnation and manifested all the ingredients for the material creation. And thus, at first, there was the creation of the 16 principles of material action. This was for the purpose of creating the material universe. Yasyam bhasi shayanasya yoganidram vitanbataha nabhi bradham bhujad asid brahma vishwa srijampatihi. A part of the universe, a part of the Purusha, lies down within the water of the universe. From the navel lake of his body sprouts a lotus stem, and from the lotus flower atop this stem, Brahma, the master of all engineers in the universe, becomes manifest. Yasyavaya sangstanai kalpito lokavishtaraha tadvai bhagavato rupam vishudam sattvam urjitam. It is believed that all the universal planetary systems are situated on the extensive body of the Purusha, but he has nothing to do with the created material ingredients. His body is eternally in spiritual existence par excellence. Pasyantyado rupam adabrachakshusha sahasrapado rubujananandvutam sahasramurda shavanakshilashikam sahasramalyambara kundalo lasat. The devotees, with their perfect eyes, see the transcendental form of the Purusha, who has thousands of legs, thighs, arms, and faces, all extraordinary. In that body there are thousands of heads, ears, eyes, and noses. They are decorated with thousands of helmets and glowing earrings, and are adorned with garlands. Etan nanavataranam nibanam bijamabhyayam yasyang shangshena srijante devatiryam naradayaha. This form is the source and indestructible seed of multifarious incarnations within the universe. From the particles and portions of this form, different living entities, like demigods, men, and others, are created. Bhagavatam 1:3, 1 through 5. Lord Mahapurusha is the support of material nature, and so he is described as the original source of the basic causes of creation, the 5 gross elements and 11 senses. He performs his pastime of creation while lying in the ocean that fills the bottom half of the universe. From his navel appears a lotus stem from which all the forms and configurations of material existence will be manifest, and at the top of the stem grows a flower, where Brahma, the chief engineer of the creation, is born. Brahma discovered inside the lotus stem of his birth the detailed plans of creation. Tadvilokya viyadvyapi pushkaram yadadi adishtitam anena lokan prag linan kalpita smityachintayat. Brahma saw that lotus on which he was situated was spread throughout the universe, and he contemplated how to create all the planets which were previously merged in that very same lotus. Padmakosham tadavishya bhagavach chaktichoditaha ekam vyapank shid uruda trida bhavyam dvisaptada. Thus engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Brahma entered into the whorl of the lotus, and as it spread all over the universe, he divided it into 3 divisions of worlds, and later into 14 divisions. Bhagavatam 10:3, 10, 7, and 8. In meditation, Brahma discovered the 1,000-headed Mahapurusha, who at first had been invisible to him from his lotus seat. He offered prayers to that Lord and made a special request. My dear Lord, may you come and live on my planet in this very form. Thus, the first Lord of creation became Brahma's constant guest. The Mahapurusha is called Vishuddham, all pure, because even while giving shelter to the material energy, he remains untouched by the faults of matter. He is Sattvam, substantial reality. Because he is the all-pervading absolute truth, he is an incarnation of Godhead, but is also called the fountainhead of all other incarnations. This can be said because he is the total support of material nature, and as such, he is almost as complete as a manifestation as the Supreme. This can be said that he is the fountainhead of all incarnations because he is the total support of material nature, and as such he is almost as complete a manifestation of the Supreme as the Master of Vaikuntha, Sri Narayana. In addition, almost all the incarnations of Narayana appear in this world during the rule of the Mahapurusha's appointed servant, Brahma. The 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 11.4, 3 and 4, describes Lord Mahapurusha. Bhutair yada panchabir atmashishtai puram virajam virachaya tasmin shwang sena vishta purushabdidanam avapa narayana adidevaha. When the primeval Lord Narayana created his universal body out of the 5 elements produced from himself, and then entered within that universal body by his own plenary portion. He thus became known as the Purusha. Yat kaya esha bhuvanatraya sannivesho yasyendriyais tanubritam upayendriyani jnanam swatak shwasanato balam oja iha satvadibi stitilayo bhava adikarta. Elaborately arranged within his body are the three planetary systems of this universe. His transcendental senses generate the knowledge acquiring and active senses of all embodied beings. His consciousness generates conditioned knowledge, and his powerful breathing produces the bodily strength, sensory power, and conditioned activities of the embodied souls. He is the prime mover, although the agency of the material modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. He is the prime mover through the agency of the material modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. And thus the universe is created, maintained, and annihilated. The Mahapurusha produced the total body of the universe. Excuse me, sorry. The Mahapurusha produced the total body of the universe and entered it as his pastime, but he did not do so for his own enjoyment. Rather, the enjoyer of the universal body is the most pious of conditioned beings, Brahma. The Lord, in his creative feature, is called Purusha because he lays down, Shete, within the city, Pur, of the universal shell. His beautiful body accommodates all the three worlds, and his pastimes consist of creation, maintenance, and annihilation. As Indra is stating, Lord Mahapurusha on Brahmaloka consumes the offerings made in sacrifice, which resemble a constantly flowing river, because on Brahmaloka so many sacrifices are always being performed. Thanks to the Lord's being satisfied by these offerings, the inhabitants of Brahma's planet are perpetually blissful. It is true that Lord Mahapurusha is sometimes absent when he merges into Krishna to join him in Mathuradam on earth, and the ecstasy on Brahmaloka is accordingly interrupted. But time on Brahmaloka is so expansive that the duration of Sri Krishna's descent is barely noticeable. In effect, on Brahmaloka, Lord Mahapurusha is seen constantly. Text 35. I could give you thousands of other reasons why Brahma is the real object of Sri Krishna's mercy. What more needs to be said? He is in fact Krishna himself. 36. You know this, since it is proclaimed in both Shruti and Smriti. You must also be familiar, my Lord, with other aspects of Brahma's greatness and the greatness of the residents of his planet. Commentary. Many scriptures, including Srimad Bhagavatam, teach that Lord Brahma is an empowered incarnation of Vishnu. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Aham Brahma Chasarvascha Jagatak Karanam Padam Atmeshwara upadrashta soyam drig avisheshanaha atmamayam samabhisya soham gunamayim dvija srijan rakshan hadang vishwam dadre samgyam kriyochitam. Lord Vishnu said, Brahma, Lord Shiva, and I Lord Vishnu said, Brahma, Lord Shiva, and I are the supreme cause of the material manifestation. I am the Supersoul, the self-sufficient witness. But impersonally, there is no difference between Brahma, Lord Shiva, and me. My dear Daksha Dvija, I am the original personality of Godhead. But in order to create, maintain, and annihilate this cosmic manifestation, I act through my material energy. And according to the different grades of activity, my representations are differently named. This is Bhagavatam 4.7, 50 to 51. Trayanam ekabhavanam nyona pashyati vaibidam sarva bhutatmanam brahman sashantim adigachchati. One who does not consider Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, or the living entities in general to be separate from the Supreme, and who knows Brahman, actually realizes peace. Others do not. Bhagavatam 4.7, 54. Text 37. Sri Parikshit said, having heard these words from Indra, godly Narada replied, well said, sir, well said, and hastily went to Brahma's planet. Text 38. There, Narada first heard from a distance the huge sound of the many great sacrifices performed unceasingly and with great devotion by the sages on Brahmaloka. Commentary. Vedic sacrifices may be performed simply or elaborately according to the resources and ambitions of the performers. More than any other brahmanas in the universe, the residents of Brahma's planet are willing and able to carry out the longest, most complex sacrifices. Thus, Narada's first impression of Brahmaloka from the din of the many sacrifices being performed was of a very busy place. Text 39. He then beheld among the sages the Supreme Lord in his Mahapurusha form, looking very much satisfied, decorated with crowns of matted locks. The Lord sat in his 1,000-headed form. The personification of sacrifice had appeared there with his consort just to accept the offerings and delight his worshippers. Commentary. Lord Mahapurusha is the originator of sacrifices and is their presiding deity. As described in the Purusha Sukta of the Rig Veda, at the beginning of creation, the first sacrifice in the universe was performed, and for this sacrifice, Lord Mahapurusha provided the sacrificial ingredients from his own body. The Lord reveals himself in this form on Brahmaloka, not simply to take his offerings, but to please his worshippers. He enjoys personally distributing the results of sacrifice. Text 41. To enliven lotus-born Brahma. To enliven lotus-born Brahma, the Lord consumed all the items offered him, placing them into his 1,000 mouths with his 1,000 hands. 42. After awarding the performers of the sacrifices the benedictions they desired, Lord Mahapurusha went to his sleeping quarters As the goddess Lakshmi massaged his feet, he entered his pastime of sleep. Commentary. To relieve the worshippers of any doubt as to whether he was enjoying the oblations, Lord Mahapurusha ate the oblations with relish and without hesitation, as long as the offerings continued. When the offerings were finished, the Lord blessed the sages with benedictions fulfilling their desires, such as the desire that they always be able to perform similar sacrifices. Lord Mahapurusha and the goddess of fortune then went to their private quarters to rest. At this time, he was no longer visible to the residents of Brahmaloka. The two principal pastimes of Lord Mahapurusha on Brahmaloka, his accepting sacrifices and his sleeping, are described by Vaishampayana Rishi in the Mahabharata at the end of the account of the killing of Kalanemi. Vaishampayana says, Tad-didarsha makeshwa adjaya ijamanam maharshibihi bhagam yagyinam ashnanam swamdeham apadam stitam. He saw the Lord in yet another of his forms, consuming his share of the oblations of ghee offered in sacrifices by great sages. Satatra pravishana eva jata bhadam samudbhavan sahasra shirasho bhutva shayanayo pachakrame. The thousand-headed Lord, his heads covered with matted locks, entered the room that lay down to sleep. According to Sri Shukadev Goswami's account, at the beginning of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, at the end of Dwapara Yuga, Lord Brahma and the other demigods, on the request of the earth personified, approached Lord Vishnu on Shweta Dweep from the shore of the milk ocean. One might ask why they needed to travel to Shweta Dweep if Lord Vishnu is always present in Brahma's own domain. Although this journey was strictly speaking unnecessary, during some days of Brahma, the pastime of entreating Lord Krishna to descend unfolds in this way. During other days of Brahma, such as the one described in Sri Harivangsha, Lord Vishnu is approached on Brahmaloka itself. Srila Sanatana Goswami suggests that Brahma and the others may have gone to Shweta Dweep because they felt reluctant to disturb Lord Mahavishnu's privacy while he was enjoying his sleep. Or else, Brahma may have calculated that if Lord Mahapurusha were to descend to earth at his request, Brahmaloka would be bereft of his presence for the duration of the avatar. It would be better, therefore, to go to the milk ocean and ask Lord Vishnu there to become the avatar. In any case, when Sri Krishna descends, all the expansions of Godhead appear with him, including Lord Mahapurusha and the Lord of Shweta Dweep. Thus, to say that Krishna descends through one form of Vishnu or another makes little difference. Krishna alone is the ultimate source of all avatars. Text 43. At the Lord's request, Brahma then instructed his sons to continue the sacrifices, while he went to his own royal court to deliberate on the management of the universe. Commentary. Just before Lord Mahapurusha went to his quarters to rest, he advised Brahma to turn the sacrifices over to his sons, thus deputing of Brahma's sons as authorities in Vedic sacrifice, confirms the Supreme Person's eternal instructions recorded in the Vedas. The Vedas describe that Brahma is the first Vedic priest, followed by his sons, who teach the methods of sacrifice, thereafter, to the people of the universe. Text 44 and 45. As Brahma sat comfortably on his universal throne, absorbed in hearing and reciting the glories of the Lord, tears flowed from his 8 eyes. Surrounding Lord Brahma in attendance were the personified powers of universal rulership. Narada came close, offered respects to his father by falling to the ground like a stick, and then spoke. Commentary. While the Supreme Lord was present, Narada did not speak his mind. Either he thought that speaking would be improper, or he found no opportunity to say anything until after the Lord had left. Only then could Narada offer full obeisances to his father, because one is generally forbidden to bow down to anyone else in the presence of the Supreme Lord. Since Brahma is both Narada's father and his spiritual master, Narada may have bowed only his head to Brahma in front of Lord Vishnu, but bowed down with his whole body after Lord Vishnu had left. Brahma's attention was now fixed on hearing about the great qualities of Lord Vishnu, such as his exceptional kindness to his devotees. And we will stop there for tonight. Tomorrow we will hear Narada's glorification of his father, Lord Brahma. Hare Krishna. Shri Brhad Bhagavatamrta ki jai. Shri Lord Brahma ki jai. Okay, any reflections, comments?
First questions from Brhad Bhagavatamrta.
Brhad Bhagavatamrta, first out of the gates.
He says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Brhad Bhagavatamrta ki jai.
Does Krishna go to the planets of the demigods? Are those residents liberated when they serve him? I know Krishna comes here, but I didn't realize he went to these other places as well.
Well, he goes so many places. He's actually everywhere at the same time. But Krishna, in his original form, comes to each universe on the earthly planet. He has his own abode, and that abode is fixed eternally. So in one time in the day of Brahma, he comes there. So he's the source of all incarnations, but because he agrees to appear to accept the limitations of time and space, he seems to come through the different forms of Vishnu. And Mahapurusha, who is Mahavishnu, is the one that Krishna comes through. Other incarnations of God will come through Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, who lives in the top of the universe, and is also the super soul of all living beings. So yes, but we heard in the purport that whether you say Krishna comes from one or the other comes from Krishna, is really not saying anything different, because they're all the same person. we may notice now at this section of the Bhagavatam, of the Brhad Bhagavatamrta, why it's considered to be the essence of the Bhagavatam, of the whole Bhagavatam. Because here we're hearing about the creation of the universe and the situation of the incarnations and Lord Brahma. So, and notice how Sanatana Goswami fills in the details from the verses of the Brhad Bhagavatamrta in his own commentaries. And you put it all together and you get a pretty clear picture of what the Bhagavatam is saying in a wonderful way. Therefore, it is, the Bhagavatam is the cream of the Vedas, and the Brhad Bhagavatamrta is the creme de la creme of the Vedas. Hare Krishna.
Avadut Roy.
Hare Krishna, Avadut Roy.
He says, Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj, what is the subtle body of the demigods made? Is there a subtle earth, fire, water, or...
Well, the bodies of the demigods are subtle. They're more subtle than the gross bodies of the living beings on the earth. It's not clear anything that I haven't heard anything clearly stated of what exactly makes up the bodies of the demigods. We do know that there's a statement that the earth, water, fire, air, and ether in the spiritual world is made up of Shuddha Sattva. So this is a little speculative on my part, but I would say that the forms which appear to be like earth, water, fire, air, and so forth are almost purely in goodness in Brahmaloka. So therefore, although the forms are there, and they appear to be the same like forms here, they're subtle and not gross. And how that is beyond my pay grade. Hare Krishna.
Next is a question from Bhaktaben.
Jai Bhaktaben Haribo.
He says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. We heard that Lord Mahapurusha receives and enjoys, personally distributes the results of sacrifices to the demigods. The sacrifice of this age is the Sankirtan Yajna. I wondered in what form do the results of this sacrifice appear to Lord Mahapurusha and the demigods?
Well, the holy name of the Lord is always present, everywhere. It's just on the earth, particularly after Lord Chaitanya's appearance, once in the day of Brahma, that this Harinam Sankirtan becomes the Yuga Dharma. So you can't compare. It's like you're trying to compare orange with apples. It doesn't compare. The sacrifices in the planet of Brahma are so exalted, they're not different from the Harinam. They're constant. There's constant chanting of the holy name and of all the Vedic hymns at the same time. Whereas in the Kali Yuga on the earth, these kinds of sacrifices are, not condemned, but they're not recommended. And only the sacrifice of the holy name is effective. Hare Krishna.
Something from Vamsi Vilasi Das.
Okay. Bhakti Vilasi Das, Haribol.
He says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances and all glories to Prabhupada. Thank you so much for another wonderful reading. If Lord Mahapurusha, who was explained as being Mahavishnu, is absent from Brahmaloka when he joins with Krishna in his descent, is he also absent from the Karna ocean whilst he is on Brahmaloka?
No. It's an expansion of that Mahavishnu that lives in Brahmaloka. And he will go when Krishna appears. Like I said before, this makes it look like Krishna is, the Mahapurusha. But it's just because Krishna agrees to appear in that way. Krishna is the source of Mahavishnu and Mahapurusha and all other forms, Vishnu Tattva forms. But as it is said, the duration of time in Brahmaloka is so different than on the earth, it doesn't appear like he leaves for a second. 125 years on the earth is not even a blink in the eye of Lord Brahma. Well, maybe it's more than the blink of an eye. Because when Brahma came to test Krishna, he stole the cows and cowherd boys for a year of earth's time, but that was only a moment of his time. Hare Krishna.
A question from Gauranga Gopal Das.
Hare Krishna, Gauranga Gopal.
He says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry if my question only relates to the reading, inasmuch as I heard Hiranyakashipu's name being mentioned once. I was wondering about the 3 incarnations of Jaya. We hear that Ravana obtained more opulences than Hiranyakashipu, and so did Shishupal after Ravana's passing away. But from my very limited vision, it seems that Shishupal only rules locally and has less opulences than Ravana, who has a wider kingdom, and Hiranyakashipu himself owns the entire universe. How can we understand that?
Poetic glorification. It's just a poetic glorification to let the reader knows that these 3 personalities were very, very opulent by the grace of Lord Vishnu, even though they were demons. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, all of you, for your wonderful reflections, comments, and points of discussion. I so much appreciate it. I want you to know that starting tonight, I'm going to try to end the reading by 8:15, because we're going to go on a marathon to polish the Chaitanya Charitamrita audio files with Rasika Shiromani, and I'll need 4 or 5 hours a day to do that, and I'm getting up earlier, and we need therefore to go to bed a little earlier, so we need this extra time. So we'll be reading from 7:15, and we'll end at 8:15, and hopefully it won't cut into anybody's reflections or questions. But even if it does, sometimes we have to stop at 8:15. Okay? Thank you so much. Shri Brhad Bhagavatamrta ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow night. Same time, same place, same topic. Pure, unadulterated nectar, Amrita, the Srimad Bhagavatamrta. Hare Krishna. See you tomorrow.